Welcome to the Hustler's Handbook podcast. I'm Easton. In this show, we explore the stories of relentless go-getters, uncovering the secrets behind their success. We talk life, work, and everything in between. The highs, the lows, and the grit it takes to keep pushing forward. Tune in and get inspired right here on the Hustler's Handbook podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Hustler's Handbook podcast. I'm your host, Easton Johnson. Today's guest is educator, spoken word artist, and the author of his very own book titled All In, Demario D. Carter. Demario, welcome to the show.
Man, thank you. I appreciate you. Yes, sir.
For sure, man. Thank you for making the time to be on our show. So can you tell us, our listeners, a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, man, background was huge athlete before I ended up getting a little bit older, but was a 3-sport athlete all the way up to my junior year of high school, then just focused on track and football. I had the opportunity to play collegiate football, and going from there, I was trying to figure it out. Was pro in the cards for me? Was it not in the cards for me? I went out there on the field, exhausted all opportunities, had a few tryouts with some CFL teams, one NFL team, just didn't end up panning out for me as far as being on the field. One thing I always told myself was that I'm gonna go to the NFL at a young age. And so it might not have been literally playing or catching the football, but had the opportunity to work for the Los Angeles Chargers after going to grad school and interning with USC, and then going from USC with the Chargers. And so that's really where you talk about just hustling and grinding. That's really where all that stuff came into play, because I wouldn't be the man I am today or have this ambition to be the creative that I am if it wasn't for sports.
That's what's up. And so what did you end up getting your degree in?
Ended up getting it in sport management. That was I got from University of San Francisco. That's my master's, and it was an amazing program. Man, the professors there, just the family vibes that is within that program, just amazing.
And so can you tell us what initially got you inspired into pursuing a career in writing and spoken word?
Yeah. As a youth, inner city youth, you don't hear about other outlets besides sports or rapping, right? That's those are your only two ways out, right? You got to do one of those two. I wish I could go back and talk to my younger self and tell myself, hey, keep playing the saxophone, keep writing poetry, keep doing everything else outside of that athletic box. And it wasn't until my freshman, sophomore year of college that I really was like, no, I can be an athlete and write poetry, and write a book and do this, that, and the third, because one day, league or no league, your body's not going to be able to perform and produce at that level as it used to.
And so what inspired you in the first place to hop back into it?
Life, honestly. It was really life. It was just so many experiences in life, some good, some bad. But I just always felt like I didn't have an outlet. Like, yeah, I can go on the field and hit somebody. Like, cool. Okay, but practice is 2 hours long. Then what?
Yeah.
There's still 22 more hours in the day that I can use to my brain and to have another outlet. So poetry is what really I gravitated back to. And that's something I picked up in 5th grade, performed at 5th grade graduation, and dropped it because I was an athlete. No athletes write poetry. I'm too cool for that. I'm an athlete. So I was young and dumb.
Yeah. So do you feel like you kind of grew out of that mindset of being just like in that box of just being an athlete to being like, hey, I can be more than an athlete and show a different side of myself?
Absolutely. And I think that all goes with vulnerability. I had to learn to be vulnerable, because that masculine mentality as an athlete, you're not going to be soft. You're not going to be weak. Like, nah, I'm here. What's up? We're going to line up on this line and we're going to go.
Yeah. And so what do you think transpired to make you make that change, besides like personal growth, to get out of that mindset of just being like you said, like being that masculine guy and being like, I have to prove something, versus being like, I got to be vulnerable? Was there anything specific that really sparked it? Or was it just one of those things that's just like, it's something that helps me and I feel like will make me do better overall and just kind of show a different side of myself?
I honestly would say I lost a good amount of friends to gun violence And then the other thing too was when my mom got really really sick in high school.
Mm,
And so still living, but just disabled, living the rest of her life with the disability. And I would
mm,
say those circumstances, those situations, it's like, I mean, yeah, I can listen to every hard drill music, rap song, and everything, and sit up
mm,
here and go get revenge, right?
mm,
Or I could sit up here and like, hey, you're gonna sit with those emotions, um,
mm,
and you're gonna figure out a way to either put them towards, I don't want to say something positive, but you're going to take those emotions and you're going to filter them. And whether that's
mm,
you writing, whether that's you using them in the athletic space, or whether that's
mm,
just sometimes just sitting in silence and trying to figure out like, what's my next move? For
mm,
me, after sitting with those emotions, my next move was going to grad school. Cause I'm like, if I stay
mm,
here, I don't really I don't know what I'm doing. Like, okay, football's over.
mm,
Cool. But
mm.
what's next? And I had to go to grad school to figure that out.
Hmm. And what was the biggest challenge for yourself getting out of that athletic mindset, or not necessarily athletic mindset, of just being like, hey, I'm not playing football anymore, and then I'm going to pursue something different and pursue it 100%? Because, like you said, you went to grad school. So it's like a lot of times when people stop playing sports, it's like, okay, I'm going to take a break, figure things out, don't know what I'm going to do. What kind of got you to that mindset of being like, okay, football's essentially over, and now I got to take this step to pursue something different?
It was that, honestly, it was that 2 years
Mm.
between me finishing undergrad and me going to grad school. I worked enough jobs in that 2 year time frame that I'm like, oh no, this ain't for me. I was like, oh, I hate this, I hate that, I hate this. So it just
Mm,
experiences. I did enough things that I knew like I don't want to do this for the rest of my, or I won't say the rest of my life, but for a long period of time in my life.
mm,
And I feel like youth nowadays, they freaking social media, they think it's just
mm.
instant success, and it's not.
Oh,
It's
definitely.
not instant. You gotta go,
Mm,
just like you got to go through the trenches in sports, you got to go through the trenches in life and figure out what it is that you're going to sit up here and apply your time and energy to. So I
mm,
needed those 2 years to figure it out.
mm. And so when you started doing the spoken word or just started doing writing, what was your motivation? Was it mostly stuff from the past, stuff that you're dealing with now, a combination of both, or?
First started writing, I would say it was a combination of everything, just as far as just life from, I would say just being a young adult. Cause
Mm,
my first poem that I performed, or spoken word piece that I performed, was, it's called All In, which is also the
mm,
title of my book. But the reason that piece is called All In, because it talks about all different perspectives of just what a young black male was going through at the time. And
mm,
how I just felt like, yo, this is my truth. And so I'm gonna
mm,
put it out here. If one person claps, cool. If nobody claps, cool. But this is my truth. So
mm. So for anybody like listeners that aren't familiar, can you actually explain what spoken word is for somebody who may not know what it is?
yes, yes. So oops, my bad. So spoken word. I got a puppy. I want to make sure I didn't step on her.
Ah,
My bad.
you're good. You're good.
uh, so spoken word is more so, it's performance poetry. It's poetry that's
Mm,
meant to be heard and felt. I'm not gonna go on stage and read a poem to you and call that spoken word. Like I'm just
mm,
reading you a poem. I can
mm,
recite you a poem. But spoken word is all about body language and your delivery and punchlines. And uh, if any of y'all ever watched like the rap battles, like when they're over
mm,
here just hitting every bar, bow, bow.
mm,
It's similar to spoken word, but spoken word has
mm,
its own style. I would never call it freestyle rap. It's totally
mm,
different. But that delivery, that energy, it's like you want
mm,
the crowd to feel your words. You don't really want them to hear them. You want them to
mm.
feel everything you're saying.
Hmm. And so when you first started doing that, how did you go about showing that emotion? Like, did you initially start going to spoken words, or did you, like, how did that all come about?
Yeah, so doing I did a few. I really got started doing a few shades of black,
Mm,
with whether the one in Boise, one in Pullman, one in Moscow, just going around doing different types of shades of black shows with Quappy, shout out Quappy, and just really starting to get my footing there. But again, my first one, like if y'all go on YouTube and type in like Demario Carter All In, like my first one, I'm up here I'm talking, holding the mic. It looks like I got a blazer on. I look like a principal, like giving.
You got to
Oh
start
man,
somewhere.
gotta start somewhere. It's so cringy to watch right now. Like I can't even do it.
I'll put the link in the video.
Oh man. But just that growth, because what
Mhm.
you'll see then to if you was come out to a show now, it's totally different. Because back then, I don't have the hand movements, the body language, the dropping my tone, the raising my pitch. Like you don't really see that in my first few shows, but now you come there, I'm coming to deliver like I'm UPS. Like, hey, yo, let's
Mhm.
go.
Yeah. And so when you first or like how often do you feel like you write? Is it kind of just one of those things where it's like I feel like writing, or is it a daily thing? How do you maintain it?
Yeah, so I would say I feel like when I feel like writing, working on my second book now called Cluttered Thoughts. But even with that process, I'm not writing every day because if I don't feel
Mhm.
it, I can't expect my reader to feel it.
Mhm.
So some days it's like, okay, I'm gonna write. I gotta. It's going. Here we go. I'm gonna go, and it might
Mhm.
be 2 days. 2 days. I'm like, nah, I don't feel it. Nah, I don't feel it.
Mhm.
Nah, I don't feel it. So it comes in waves for sure, and then also life. You might have an experience that happens today that's like, yep, I'm writing about that.
Mhm.
And that can be 10 different poems about one experience, but in
Mhm.
10 totally different ways. So
Yeah, for sure. So working you say you work in education also. So how are you able to time manage, and I understand like, spoken word, there's various times and events that you have, but how are you able to maintain like staying on top of, your writing and work balance?
I don't know. It's tough. It's tough, man. Shout out CPM to all my eighth graders, soon to be, well, actually all ninth graders now. But I will say it's a balance that I'm still trying to master.
Mhm.
Last year I focused less on writing and more so on just performing. So it
Mhm.
was a little bit easier to know that I don't have to write anything or have this book out tomorrow or this year. I don't have a deadline for my book yet.
Mhm.
Whereas I can go to work, show up for the kids, be there after, attend all the different staff meetings and things we have, and I can still go perform a show and be
Mhm.
right back at work the next day. I
Mhm.
also started doing more shows on like Fridays and Saturdays and less during the week as far as like on a Wednesday or a Tuesday, because those get a little rough.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So so when you do perform and like you say you like express emotion and show, basically show people the pieces of your poetry, how do you give that energy each time? Do you feel like you are able to feel it each time you're saying that poem, or do you feel like you have to kind of get into a certain way before you perform? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one of the best ways to answer that it would be for the athletes out there. You got that pregame playlist going
Mhm.
on, and
Mhm.
you just getting ready. Like, hey,
Mhm.
specialists, hey, specialists, be ready. Like,
Yeah,
like
for
when you
sure.
get that, when you get in that zone, that's really like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm about to lock in. I will
Mhm.
say the difference between sports and doing spoken word is like sports. You're gonna go out there and you're gonna perform for yourself and for your team.
Mhm.
With spoken word, I'm gonna go out there and perform for me. But one thing
Mhm.
about me, sometimes I gotta read the crowd. In sports, you're
Mhm.
not gonna read the crowd. Like, hey, look,
Mhm.
whether you stop me or not, my goal is to tackle you and to keep you from scoring. Spoken word,
Mhm.
my goal is to deliver you pieces and to deliver you
Mhm.
poems, but also stay true to myself. But
Mhm.
sometimes within the crowd, it's like, oof, this piece isn't gonna hit with this crowd because no one in here is
Yeah.
gonna relate to what I'm about to say. So there's been times
Mhm.
I'm on the fly, I can walk in, like I can have my set, I'm about to go boom, 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 boom. I'll say
Mhm.
the first piece, nope, it's not for them.
Mhm.
Boom, take that one
Mhm.
out, add a different one in. So that on the
Mhm.
fly thinking too, you got to be really, really aware of who your crowd is.
Mhm.
Cause,
And that's
cause my
actually what's leading up. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh, my crowd in I was gonna say like my crowd in Long Beach, California is gonna be way
Mhm.
different from my crowd in Glenwood, Washington. two
Yeah.
two totally different
Yeah,
crowds.
yeah, for sure. Know your crowd for sure. And actually, that was going to lead up to my next question. What similarities do you find being an athlete that translate to you doing spoken word and poetry?
I'll say I'm competitive. So me just being
Mm,
so competitive is what makes me want to always bring my best into whatever I do, whether it's spoken word, whether it's teaching, whether I run marathons now. Like what I'm always
mm,
trying to go up here and be faster than I was in my last marathon. But that's everything that athletics just instilled in me. To do
mm,
your best and like not to what do people say? I'm not running nobody else's race. I'm not doing
mm,
anybody else's spoken words because there's
mm,
other spoken word artists out there that are amazing. That's not my lane.
mm. Yeah. So I wanted to ask because like, I feel like a lot of times when people are like stressed out, they tend to write, whether it be in a diary and whatnot. Do you ever feel like there's times where you are like stressed out or having a rough day and writing does improve your day?
I'll go run instead. I never want
Okay.
to associate my writing with and not saying there's not times I've been frustrated and I don't write,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want it to be. I'm trying to see how I can word this right. I don't want to associate it with something negative, and I'm not saying that
Mm-hmm.
it is, but sometimes like yeah, okay, I'm feeling a type of way about something, I'm gonna write it.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, like oh, I'm gonna go run, I'm gonna go run this
Mm-hmm.
out real quick, and then I'll come
Mm-hmm.
back, have better energy, and then that energy I put onto that paper. I'm not saying it
Mm-hmm.
has to be positive, but it's gonna be pure. It's gonna be not out of frustration.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely, and that makes sense because I'm sure if you were to write every rough day, I don't think your poetry and spoken word is going to be as positive as you want it to be. So,
Exactly.
um, so people who are just starting or wanting to get into it, who might just be in a shell and not want to get out of that comfort zone, what advice would you give to somebody who wanted to start spoken word or writing or anything like that and perform it?
I would definitely say just write. Just start off
Mm,
writing. Everything you write doesn't have to be performed. There's a
mm,
lot of poems I have that I will never be heard by anybody else because I'm not going to share them, or read by
mm,
anybody else because I'm not going to put them in a book. So
mm,
just having that ability to write, just write and write and write, and sometimes you're just writing. Well, no, all the time you're writing for yourself. It's a privilege
mm,
for other people to hear or read what you write because you're giving that to them.
mm,
So if you decide to write it and you keep that's for you.
mm,
Also, if you now going to decide if you are deciding to perform, go out there, go to these open mics, go perform. Go when you do perform though, when you have whatever you have writing, yeah, when you
mm,
first start off, it's cool to read it or have it in your phone and read from your phone. That's cool. But as you get better and you continue to want to do this,
mm,
memorize it because you memorize it.
mm,
It helps you with your delivery. It helps you with how okay, you know what parts is coming up. You know where to. Oh, I'm
mm,
gonna emphasize this line, or I'm gonna
mm,
lower my voice on this line, and it's just all about practice. I will also
mm,
say going to my goodness, I forgot the name that quick. Slam like slam poetry. So
mm,
those is
mm,
that's type of poetry when you're competing. It's a
mm,
competition and it's usually 3 rounds and you're competing this whole time. But with slam poetry, man, if you really want to perform like and you want to do it at a competitive level, go do slam poetry. Also, don't be afraid of the judges at slam poetry.
mm.
Man, there's this one slam poetry event I went to, and I mean, one of these judges, buddy, was just dogging me. He was giving me like ones and twos. He was
Oh,
dogging me.
wow.
Um, but the other judges was like giving me like high scores, and so again, you
Mm,
can't let that one person throw you off. And I
mhm,
honestly needed that. Like I'm like, if
mhm,
I'm worried about what people say about my poetry, then I shouldn't be sharing it. I need to just keep it
mhm,
internal.
mhm, mhm. I want to go back to your well, it's kind of a two-part question. Your first project, first book you wrote, All In, and then your current book you're writing now. Can you kind of explain the creative process you go through to create a book or the book you're currently writing? If there's any difference of creative process between the two books, because sometimes initially you're just like, I want to get something out there, and then there's some things you wanted to change. So, two-part question is what was the creative process for your previous book, and then what is the process now, and has it changed?
Yeah. Previous book creative process was to get since I self-published, it was like to get at least a hundred pages of poetry within a book.
Mm, Mm-hmm.
And I wanted it to start off. My book goes the boy, the adolescent, the man, and me. There's only one poem in the me category because I wanted me to just talk about who I was right there in the moment. And then the reason I categorized it, the boy, the adolescent, and the man, is because I feel like the boy is like more younger poetry, more younger me writing
Mm-hmm.
style. Adolescent, I'm coming into my own a little bit more. And then the man, those are more later poems at the time that I wrote my book that are more as far as like present.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Decided to do it that way. Again, just to show my growth as a person, to show my growth as an author, as a poet. Um, but the process is like I was a novice at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
talk about copyright, didn't know what to do. I'm reaching out to people. I'm sending my like transcript to friends and stuff so they can read over it. Like I'm not at the time, I'm not paying for an editor. Like
Yeah.
I think I'm a few. No, I think I dropped my book right before 2019. So I had just graduated from grad school, so I wasn't paying
Mm.
nobody
Yeah.
uh,
You ain't got no extra money. Yeah.
at all. What else with the first one? Reaching out, I kept it in circle. Like my cover was done by somebody that by Dominique. So I
Mm-hmm.
kept him real close because we played for Rainer Eagles together. So I
Mm-hmm.
tried to keep everything within my circle as far
Mm-hmm.
as people that I already know instead of giving. And I did pay him. Hold on, let me go back. I definitely paid bro. I didn't want to. I didn't want to give money to. If I gotta pay for something, I don't want to give money to people who I don't know. Where I got people right
Mm-hmm.
here in my backyard that I know are extremely talented in their own respective spaces. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then I self-published. So I went through KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, which is ran through Amazon. So they take a percentage of the books that I sell, but also at the same time you can order author copies, and I can sell those author copies at my same rate as I do on Amazon, but collect all of that revenue for myself instead
Mm-hmm.
of Amazon taking a percentage. So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different loopholes and things you got to maneuver, getting your ISBN number,
Mm-hmm.
getting what else am I forgetting here? Just knowing the size of your book. What size is your
Mm-hmm.
poetry book gonna be? Just all those things that I didn't necessarily know. Now going to Cluttered Thoughts, I don't want to self-publish this book. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason I say that is because I want to be a creative. I want to be an author. I want to be a poet. I don't want to have to do marketing. I don't want to have to do
Mm-hmm.
keep up with sales. I don't want to have to do editing. I don't want to do it. It's so much work and for one person
Mm-hmm.
to do it. Like you really need a team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd rather my book get picked up by a publishing company and they do all that and just let me write, let me create.
Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to ask, out of all of the poetry you've done, do you have one or a few specific poems that you like love? Like every time you hear it or perform it, it's just like it hasn't changed for you.
I'll probably say the one about my mom that I had wrote when she was not feeling, or when she was sick, or
Mm-hmm.
when she was less healthy than she is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I hold it near and dear because I was in at the time of that, I was in high school trying to figure out everything just as a young man, or growing into a young man. And so I love that poem because it just shows the love I have for my mom, the unconditional love I have for her, and then also just me as a young man trying to figure out, like, yo, my world is spiraling right now, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure it out. But at the end of the day, I know I'm gonna show up for you. So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
do love that poem.
That's what's up. Yeah, I like that, man. Can you actually share any details about your upcoming project? And you said it's Cluttered Thoughts?
Yeah, so titled the book "Cluttered Thoughts" because I started writing it during COVID,
Mm,
and with that, I think it's kind of ironic because I dropped all in 2019, and then like what, a year later, like, or not even,
yeah.
yeah, a year, we went into COVID. So
Mm,
I was like, I'm gonna start my second one during COVID, and
mm,
I called it Cluttered Thoughts because there are so many things running through my mind and through my brain, and I just started putting pen to paper. And I feel like the first beginning of the book is going to focus more so on my mind as far as what it was like, what I was thinking in COVID, and then
mm,
the second half of it's going to be like a more post COVID type of vibe. Just
mm,
how we're having to engage in the world and move in the world post COVID. and I'm not gonna self-publish it though. So somebody's gonna pick this book up.
That's what's up, though, man. I'm very happy for you and looking forward to it. So, biggest accomplishment so far, you feel, since you've been, whether it be sports related or, publishing books, what do you feel like has been the biggest accomplishment for yourself?
Biggest one, I'm gonna say number one, not giving up. Because there's been so many times I could have gave up and I didn't. And man, that's just to my mom. Like she never raised me to be a quitter. Even there's times that I definitely wanted to quit. So I would say not giving up. After that, even though I never played in the NFL, just as a kid, you tell I'm going to the NFL, I'm going to the NFL, and having that opportunity to work for the Chargers, man, was just amazing. I think I was in LA 6.5, 7 years with the Chargers for 4, if I'm not mistaken. So just that opportunity, saying that you're going to do something and accomplishing it, because I think it really gives me a story to tell kids who are just, especially these high school athletes, are just like, hey, I'm doing this, it's this or nothing. It's like, hey, cool. I'm never going to tell you you're not going to go. I will never, ever say that. If anything, I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. But also, I don't even want to call it a backup plan. But also, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Because you can do this.
One injury away.
Yeah, one injury away. And even if you do make it, like, yeah, you're gonna thrive in the league in your 20s. You're gonna float in the league in your early 30s. But after that, then what? You can't just go through life like, hey, I play football. Hey, I play basketball.
Yeah. Right.
like, come on, man. So
yeah.
It's a great speaking piece for sure. And I'll say the third thing is growth. I told myself at 30, I'm 33 now. I told myself at 30 I was gonna go to therapy. I haven't yet, but but just being knowledgeable of growth, and still like I look up therapists, I'm reading, I'm like, that growth aspect in life is big, because if I had that same mindset, that same mentality as I did as an adolescent, we wouldn't even be on this call right now, or on this podcast right now. I wouldn't be on this podcast right now.
And looking ahead, future goals you have for yourself. Obviously, you have a book coming out, but do you have any other goals that you have looking forward, whether you write them down or just mentally have any goals in the back of your mind?
Yeah, definitely want to continue to travel and do more poetry. I want to go on a tour, but I want to get more so Midwest and East Coast with it. So definitely want to plan that for next year. A goal to go into Canada and perform. That's probably going to come into reality more so this year than next year. Been talking there, and got some things in the works there, but definitely just want to continue to perform, continue to spread my words, because it's dope reading words on paper. So if I can have people read my book, that's dope. That's amazing. But if you can read my book and be like, oh wait, he's about to perform. Oh, nah, I'm trying to go hear him. Like, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, just putting out a book alone is huge in itself, man. And congratulations on that. And I'm looking forward to your next book, man. And I'm rooting for you all the way, because you're extremely talented. And anybody who hasn't heard him or listened to him or read his book, super talented. You guys need to listen to him. One quick or two more questions. Where can people find you on social media? What type of, whether it be, Instagram, where can people find you and your stuff?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Woken Herd. Not the and symbol, but actually got to spell out the word and. Woken Herd. And then DemarioCarter.com is my website. And then, I got what's the other joint called? I kind of got big on Threads. Hey, I'm on Threads. Hey, Threads go
okay.
crazy.
Yeah, okay.
Threads go crazy.
I got to get better on that. And so, final thing, any other advice or tips or anything else that you may have left out that you would like to say that I may not have touched base on?
Man, this last thing is like, man, life isn't always it's not gonna go according to plan. And I think that's one thing, especially I think right now more so I'm talking to the youth, because as adults, I mean, we definitely, we know it doesn't go according to plan. But to the youth out there, life doesn't go according to plan, but just because your first step isn't solid, like you might slip a little bit, don't be afraid to bring that second foot forward. because you already know what that first one is like. Oh, my footing wasn't the most solid there. By bringing that second foot forward, you know not to put it in that same place you put your first foot. So you're going to put it over here. And where you put that second one, it's going to be solid. It's going to be solid. So you guys got to trust yourself. Everything's not going to go to plan. You're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. It's just learning from those mistakes. Don't make that same mistake again, and again. Learn from the first one. And man, just live life, enjoy it. Don't be in a rush to grow up. Be a kid. Trust me, be a kid.
Seriously though, man. And I appreciate you coming on the Hustler's Handbook podcast, man. It means a lot. And I'm rooting for you. I wish you all the best. You're great, man. I've known you forever. Make sure if you haven't, go get his book that's currently out, All In. Great book. And I'd love to have you on again after you release that second book, man. Get some more advertisement out there and whatnot, man, and more game, man, because you're a great dude and you're helping the community, helping the young ones, and just doing great things. So I commend you for that.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you, bro. Absolutely. And also, if y'all buy the book from my website, I'll sign it for you. If you buy it from Amazon, I can't sign it from you. But if you buy it from my website, I'll sign it for you and I'll ship it to you. I got you.
Dope, man. Well, thank you again.
Find you to sign yours.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, we ain't too far from each other. But yeah, man, I want to thank you again for coming on and love to have you on again sometime, talking about your new book and when that one's released. And yeah, man, keep doing great things. And thank you again for being on the Hustler's Handbook podcast.
Sir, no, I appreciate you. Much love.
All love, brother. Thanks for tuning in to the Hustler's Handbook podcast. I hope you found today's episode as inspiring and insightful as I did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow hustlers. Keep pushing, keep striving, and remember, the hustle never stops. See you next time.